Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for this panel this afternoon. It's going to be on promising business practices during a quarantine. My name's Jennifer Patel, and I'm the Regional Director for Business and Entrepreneurship for the community colleges in San Diego and Imperial counties, and I'm hosted at Miracosta College. I am going to co-host this section with Monica, and I'll let her go ahead and introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Monica Rosas, and I work, like Jen said, for the San Diego and Imperial Community Colleges Regional Consortium. The business and entrepreneurship sector is one of the sectors that I help with, and I work very closely with Jen on that. So thank you and welcome, everyone. Welcome to our panelists and all the attendees. Thank you.
All right, now we want to meet our panelists. So I'm going to ask them each to introduce themselves with their name, title, their organization, and their area of expertise. So Mark, if you don't mind, would you kick us off?
Sure. My name's Mark Scheiber. I am the owner and founder of International Air Tool Company, and we are a specialty industrial distributor, e-tailer, and exporter. Basically, we sell heavy-duty pneumatic tools. We sell them online. We ship them all over the world, and we also work heavily with the maquiladora industry here in Baja California.
Thanks. Freddie, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. Freddie Flores. I'm actually an e-commerce marketing manager with WD-40 Company. We're headquartered here in San Diego. You may have heard of the brand. It's a global brand sold in 170 or so countries, a lot of different markets. And my primary role is anytime you go to Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, any of our major retailers, including Amazon, what you see on there with our brand, I'm kind of responsible for. So what that looks like, how you experience that. So I've been doing a lot of work in that place. And then some of our advertising too at some of these big retailers or promotional activities, everything more on the .com side of things. So nice to be here. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Paul, will you please introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Sipe, and thank you for inviting me on this panel. I'm looking forward to it. My background, my professional background, I spent 35 years in the commercial banking business, a couple of years with the Bank of America, and then 15 years with Security Pacific, where I ran a major loan center. I left there as a senior vice president to start my own bank. And started a bank in East County called El Cajon Valley Bank. Sold that bank about 8 years later. Then I started another bank in La Mesa called First California Bank. And I stayed with that bank for about 7 years. And then I decided I want to get out of the banking business, and I started my own financial consulting business. I've been with SCORE for 13 years. My specialization is finance and banking. Business startups, business turnarounds, buy and sells, and kind of a variety of different types of business operations.
Great, thanks Paul for being here. Mary Rose?
Hi, I'm Mary Rose Solis. I am a solopreneur. Working for myself, working with executive level services in marketing and branding for thought leaders, small business owners, those in the legal industry, and essentially entrepreneurs as well. I've had a career, gosh, that's 20 plus years. I was very fortunate to have a very successful professional career in corporate sector, as well as startup tech. So after that stint there, I came, just like many others, had a little bit of a burnout, and took a year off and decided that my mental well-being and my emotional well-being were priority, and decided to work for myself, which wasn't as easy as it tails, but it certainly has been life-changing. And being my own boss, working all the facets of a business, it's definitely been rewarding. So now it's just making my own hours, living that lifestyle that's a little bit works best for me.
Great, thanks so much. As everybody can see, we have a lot of talent on our panel, and I'm looking forward to hearing them talk a little bit about things happening in quarantine. So we're going to start off. Our first question for the panel is, what are your primary responsibilities and have they changed during quarantine? So Mary Rose, do you mind taking that one?
Yeah, for me, I've been very fortunate with branding and marketing. The business itself, or the industry itself, the services have not been, reduced. There actually have been much more requests. So my duties in my current role as kind of the one-stop shop, or the Jane of all trades, I am from the pre-proposal stage to all the way to getting the contract and delivering the services. So it's everything from pre-sales to operations. And thankfully, having already been working virtually and remote, it didn't change the structure or the format. More communication, if anything, was necessary with my clients, and touching base with them to find out what their needs were in adjusting to that. And so there was a variety of industries, from telecommunications to virtual digital agencies, and a legal industry as well. So having to really touch base with each of those was probably the biggest change, to ensure we create a new strategy for them, if anything.
You're muted, Jen.
Thanks for that answer. Sorry. Does anybody else on the panel want to take that question?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I don't know how many of you out there know a whole lot about SCORE and what we do. We've been around since about 1965. There's about 140 some different offices of SCORE. We are non-paid volunteers, primarily made up of professionals in a wide range of professional backgrounds. We provide one-on-one counseling, and before COVID, we had an office, and we still do, it's empty, on Arrow Drive in Kearney Mesa, where we would set up appointments with clients to go over their situation, whether they were starting a new business or they had a problem within their existing business. And we would try to hook them up with a mentor that had experience in that particular area, and it was a lot easier. Today, now we have to do everything virtually, and which makes it much more difficult. I am going tomorrow to do my very first multi-mentors or trainees. I'm training people to become mentors for SCORE with a client via Zoom, and we're going to see how that works out. I've tried to do it by phone, and that didn't work very well, so we're going to try a Zoom mentoring session tomorrow. Anyway, our situation has changed dramatically. We're still trying to be proactive during these times. I've done now 3 different webinars on various subjects. One of them tomorrow is basically dealing with whether you stay open or you close your business. I've done others on various financing opportunities during these times. And we have other ones we've done regarding insurance and also accounting. So we're trying to stay as active as we possibly can, but it is difficult. Communication becomes a major issue. So we're trying to work our way around that, making ourselves more available. We used to only do mentoring between 9 and 12 and 1 to 3. Now we're available from, at least I am, from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So that seems to have helped quite a bit.
Great, thanks. Sounds like you had to pivot what your teaching businesses because they have different needs during this time.
We're getting a lot of people who contact us on what they should do in regards to paying rent, or talking with the bank if they have loans that they're delinquent on. We have people wanting to know if there are other sources of funds such as the PPP or the EIDL loans. So we try to help them as much as we possibly can. But the real problem is you'd like to have them right there with you where you could guide them on doing certain things that they need to do. And of course, talking to people, even using Zoom, certain things get lost in transmission. or translation, excuse me.
Thanks. Freddie or Mark, have either of you had any major changes during quarantine to your responsibilities?
Well, so my business is kind of divided down the middle between 50% online. Well, I should say it was 50% online and 50% traveling to our customers' locations and helping them solving problems on their production lines and their maintenance areas and whatnot. So obviously this year we've seen a marked decrease in the amount of customers that actually want us to come into their facility given the situation. So that being said, our offline business has tanked this year 35 to 40%. Fortunately, the silver lining is that our e-commerce business has really skyrocketed. And I took a look at the numbers yesterday. We're actually up 47%, which is great. But when the orders come through, you know, it's just an order, and I mean, yes, we have a chance to market to them long term, but I guess I'm a little bit old school, and I still appreciate the handshake relationship. So, unfortunately, for the time being, those have decreased. Fortunately, you know, e-commerce is booming, and that's where we're at.
Great.
That ties well to my area, I guess. Of course, things have gotten a lot busier with this focus with everybody at home, everybody buying online. Obviously, with my role, that what they see online, I'm responsible for. We had to speed up things. So if we had, oh, we're gonna work on this account, you know, 6 months from now, nope, it needs it now. And so then you have multiple accounts. Everybody wants to get things done now, and you know, more emails have increased, all that good stuff. So definitely busier is the word, but just a lot of eyes now on our stuff. So to keep it short, definitely busier than ever before.
Thanks. Monica, do you want to go to the next question? So Freddie, do you mind if I start with you? In your opinion, which businesses are doing better during COVID quarantine, and maybe any that are doing worse that you can think of, and have any examples?
Yeah, I was thinking about that a little bit, and you know, it kind of varies. I feel like obviously there's a part where if you're already a business that was somehow involved, you know, with e-commerce type stuff or just easy access in this way, you were probably better prepared. You know, whatever you sell, whatever services you provide, you're probably kind of in a okay place depending what that product is or what that service is. Then also think about those who adapt. You know, I see KUSI, our local news here, and there's always a guy, you know, 6 p.m. news, he's out at some businesses and talking about who's adapting and who's not. And that's what I've noticed is if you can be quick on your feet, if you can just, you know, you have to play that game, unfortunately, with adapting to, oh, here's what the CDC says now, and here's what we can and cannot do. But I think if those that have been able to, that have the means, and they fight for that, and they are on top of it every day, no matter if tomorrow the governor changes his mind and tomorrow the city says one thing, but if you're adapting, they seem to be doing well. And from what I've seen, like, you know, a lot of the restaurant type of places and services and gyms and things of that nature. So I think those are the two main parts.
Thanks. Yeah, Paul, what have you seen with the businesses that you work with? Which ones are really thriving and which ones aren't doing so great during this time?
Well, any business that does not have to have clientele in place and within their business, with the exception of grocery stores. And for instance, this morning I was at Trader Joe's, and being my age, I get to go in early. But when I walked out, there was a line of people, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 people. They're very careful about how many people they have in their facility because it's not that big. I would say, you know, anything that's in the food business is really hurting, especially restaurants. I know that we have many clients that are in the food service business. The ones that seem to be doing okay are the food trucks or the pop-ups that are basically doing farmers markets and that type of thing. But sit-down restaurants are really struggling. One of my favorite restaurants that I used to go to all the time, was Poseidon, and they have a great outdoor seating area, but they're still closed. And I guess the reason they're closed is because the owner is quite wealthy and he owns other properties and he does need to open up. But if you're a small mom and pop restaurant or a small mom and pop retail store, it's very difficult. It's really hard for them to survive based on the fact that they're so limited in what they can do as far as servicing the clients.
Thanks. Mary Rose, did you have something to add?
Fortunately, I've been working with different businesses with my clients, and the ones that I've seen thriving or weren't as negatively impacted as many, in addition to the food industry, of course, were logistics in terms of delivery and transportation. I think the influx, I have a brother who works for Amazon, one of the fulfillment centers, and that obviously was a rush of needing, jobs and people, employees to cover all the deliveries. My one client is telecommunications, and most of the time it was about pivoting as to what product to promote, to put on priority. And in their case, it was remote workplaces. So being able to position a messaging for them to, highlight their hosted phone systems, right, for those remote employees. They also have thermal readers now for access entry to their buildings in the event that once that starts to happen. So there was a lot of that. And then digital agencies, of course, I work with a few of those. Anybody working with technologies associated with that is for digital platforms. And then telehealth. One of the few things that were brought up to my attention were opportunities to how do we create technologies for telehealth. As we saw, Zoom is booming as a result of that. And I'm sure there's so many more other platforms. So yes, absolutely more digital enhanced, but there were still a few, at least from my experience with my clients that, the legal industry as well. I have two clients that one was employment law for the corporate offices and the other one was an employment lawyer for the employees. And so both actually saw, a maintenance of maintaining that kind of business or at least presence because they had to become adept at the COVID laws, right? That were impacting the workplace. So there were, as much as there were still changes and they certainly felt the negative impact, it was just a matter of kind of, like they said, adjusting, right? And pivoting and creating a new message that helps with their business. So those were the industries that I found, thankfully, were not as negatively impacted and were able to kind of go with what's happening.
Great. You actually mentioned technology. Monica, if you want to go to our next question, I'll start with you. How do you see business changing in the future with the new technologies and global connections?
Gosh, it's funny. I was telling Monica when she had spoke with me initially that my background is in hospitality technology. And I remember back in the day where I was a trainer for sales systems. And when we had to go to virtual training, it was an uproar. And that was back almost 20 years ago. And, having to teach people not going into a classroom setting was so difficult. And I remember being against it as well, but then learning how to adjust and pivot. And I think because of that experience, I think any technology such as Zoom, such as Facebook Rooms, all these things that are being adapted, there's so many meeting spaces now that people are going to be seeing. And so I think it's just going to be continued how to build relationships, how to connect digitally online versus offline. Because I think and then also I think technology is related to supporting remote employees. Having my entire career has pretty much been remote, even in my corporate days. So I'm very versed in the remote environment. And so I think continuing to provide the technologies that help those remote workforces are going to be key, in my opinion.
Thanks. And Mark, since you do work globally, what are your thoughts on this?
So we've been exporting for about 9 years, and the trends that we're seeing is there's increasingly less emailing of documents back and forth. We used to receive a lot more wire transfers for payment, and there's technologies replacing all of that. With all the major carriers, DHL, FedEx, UPS, Global, their workflows and their services have gotten so much better. Almost everything can be done via portals, be it the carrier portals that I mentioned, or just receiving money through PayPal, or there's a new one, I don't know how new it is, but we're starting to see it more and more. It's called Payoneer. So, you know, hard copy PDFs and scanning documents, it's all going away pretty quickly, and it's being replaced with, you know, seamless workflows that are 100% digital.
Yeah, thanks. Freddie, how about you?
Yeah, some of our particular areas, you know, in e-commerce being that for some companies, they've been involved with it for a while, some haven't. I would say, you know, my company was not as deep as you might have thought or expect with such a recognizable name. And so there's been a lot of education and sort of cross-border education. And so we have, you know, let's call it like a playbook of sorts or a PowerPoint presentation, something that can educate a team that's about to do the same things that you have already done. So that's how we've been, you know, connecting. And it's quite a lot. I mean, I can say honestly, this week I spoke, you know, one day was with some counterparts in Germany, another day was with counterparts in London and Spain. And that's just in 1 week. And it's talking, you know, things with e-commerce and maybe product selection, things that work, things that didn't work, our advertising tactics, things like that, that you can share. And obviously these companies are global too. Let's take Amazon, for example. A lot of the stuff that is you'd expect works in one country will, you know, work in others, and then you'll discover that some don't. So that sharing, that global sharing is very important. And it's obviously can give you a leg up, you know, against competitors or just if you're trying to go after market share.
Great, thanks. Paul, did you have anything on this one?
Well, we advise our clients that if they're not keeping pace with what the changes that are occurring in the tech and global arenas, they're going to fall way behind. And I think this is the time. It's very critical for most businesses to keep abreast of what's happening in those areas, because that's the new norm. I mean, that's where we're going, and God only knows how long we're going to be in this particular situation with this COVID. But I think it's going to be longer than most people think it's going to be, and I think it's going to be a situation where people are going to have to change the way they do business.
Thank you, Paul. So I'll take on the last questions, give Jen a little break. And I'll start with Mary Rose. What type of jobs in your industry do you expect to have greatest demand within the next 5 years? And I wanted to start with you while you're thinking of your answer, because when you and I spoke, and this was the first for me to hear the term solopreneur. And I feel like when we were talking, that's kind of like the future, right? That's my take. So if you can start with this question, please.
Yeah. And I think people ask what's the difference between entrepreneur and solopreneur. In a nutshell, it really is that a solopreneur doesn't anticipate building either a team, a staff, right? They're pretty much the one-stop shop. They do everything in part of their business. They don't intend to necessarily sell their business. It's just about, you know, working for themselves and creating a business or service. And then with that said, I think the difference too is this flex lifestyle, right? You know, it's synonymous with freelancer, independent contractor. For those that choose solopreneurship, in addition to entrepreneurship, the whole benefit of it is being able to create that work lifestyle that works best for you in whatever circumstance you're in. And for me, you know, currently helping out with my aging parents, you know, going back to a 9-to-5 strict structure is just not amenable. It's good to be accessible and be able to create the workflow that I need, as well as maintain that, you know, mental well-being and emotional well-being we talked about before. So I think I see, you know, even if it's not full-time solopreneurship or freelancers building up in the industry, I think you're going to see a lot more side hustlers, which basically are people who will have their 9-to-5 jobs, but may potentially have a side gig or hustle in essence, because if anything, I always tell folks, even my clients, to diversify their income, not to be rest solely on one thing, like one paycheck. Even I, because of COVID, had to examine what other ways can I obtain income, whether passive income or myself going out there and doing or collaborating or partnering with somebody else with my skill set. Just being able to open up and being open to the possibility of, you know, something different, not conventional in the sense that it has to be a 9-to-5 steady paycheck. You can have that in addition to other opportunities, right, that bring in income. And I think that's what I hope to see, or I will probably see more because of this experience with COVID. I'm seeing a lot of folks now entertaining their skills and their talents and their passions and their hobbies and making money off of it. So I'm thinking we're going to probably continue to see that.
Thank you so much, Mary Rose. Mark, do you have anything to add to this question, please?
Yes, I think I can speak to it from two perspectives. So within my industry, so on the client side, you know, we service manufacturers. We're a distributor. We service a variety of manufacturers. Any industries that are going to be, you know, well equipped to provide alternative therapies, alternative energy, anything that's going to support a growing population, and I guess anything that's going to help that growing population to not go through what we're currently going through with this pandemic. So perhaps medical device manufacturing, you know, advanced batteries like those that power the Teslas, jobs in wind, jobs in solar. And then, you know, from as it pertains to my business, the type of employees that I'm looking for, e-commerce professionals, people that are really good with content, people that can help me with my website architecture. I don't think you should ever discount sales as a profession. You know, maybe not high pressure sales, but highly consultative technical sales. People that can speak to the new technologies that I mentioned earlier and consult potential customers on those. So software development, e-commerce, sales, I think those are where the jobs are going to be at. Engineering.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Freddie, I see you nodding. Do you want to add anything?
No, to complement the two speakers before me, absolutely. A lot of what they're saying, I've heard of it. I've seen some of it myself, you know, with friends and different people I've come across. And in my industry, yeah, the SEO type stuff, being found, advertising online, those things are important as people always, you know, look for things. Account management, that can deal a little bit with the sales side of things too. That's such a good point. Not that high pressure, but just people, you know, I was at an agency before, and the agency would talk about, to serve our customers, you need to be like a true product enthusiast. So like these salespeople can be into, you know, what their clients are looking for, or what their customers are looking for, and really serve them, and you find what they're looking for, and it changes the perspective of like this salesperson with agenda to someone who's actually trying to help me. You know, I myself can appreciate that for sure. Then the word omni-channel has been a buzzword in my industry for a couple of years now, but being able to kind of be everywhere. So if you know, someone's typing in something, what are they going to see for a product or a service? You know, you got to be able to cater to what they're looking for. Those are a couple areas that I believe are going to have great demand in the next couple of years.
Thank you, Freddie. And last but not least, Paul, do you have anything to add to this question?
Well, I just see three areas that I think there's going to be a need. First is healthcare. The second, I would say, would be in senior citizens, you know, residential living for senior citizens. And I see construction increasing also. And these are areas that have been sort of on the wane for some time. But I think based on what we're experiencing now, there's going to be a greater demand for, let's hope we learn our lesson from this COVID-19 catastrophe, that we're better prepared in the future, because I think we'll probably have this type of situation occur again in not too distant future. And I think there's a need for that to be addressed, both from a business standpoint and also from a political one.
Thank you so much, Paul. And I'll start the next question with you, if that's okay. Give me a second, I need to, okay. What are a few soft skills or essential skills that businesses are looking for when they hire new employees? Paul, oh, you're thinking. Maybe he froze. Mark, would you want to start this one off? We'll wait till Paul unfreezes.
Sure.
Thank you.
Soft skills. So I made a little list here, bullet points. Number one has to be a positive attitude, a great attitude. I want somebody that comes to the first interview with a lot of energy. I look for people that are highly proactive, that are going to go out on their own and figure stuff out without me having to hover over them. Of course, I'm going to provide guidance, but so great attitude, proactiveness, problem solving, and they have to be good listeners as well. And then I'd say the last one is I look for people that are naturally curious and inquisitive about, like, people that want to read labels when there's nothing else to read, people that are just want to, advance their skills no matter what it is, just pick up new little tidbits of knowledge. Those are the type of employees I've had the best luck with.
Thank you, Mark. Paul, do you want to also help us with this question?
Yeah, and I kind of go back to the time when I was an employer and the employees that I was looking at. I don't think that's changed a whole lot, maybe a little bit, but not a whole lot. I was always looking for people who could multitask, people who were looking to get ahead, who wanted to be better skilled in what they were presently doing so they could move up the ladder. The other thing is it's people who could fit in with other people, that they had social graces. But most importantly, I always look for people which I called, they were able to take that extra step to satisfy the customer. A person who was willing to go just a little bit further than the other person to try to satisfy the needs of the customer. And, I not always lucked out in getting the right people, but for the most part, I was fairly fortunate because I had some really good employees working for me. And of course, the style and the attitude of employees always starts at the top. If you've got a positive, if you've got a progressive attitude as the boss, as the owner, that shifts down to your employees. And I tried to instill that in my employees by showing a great example in that area.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, going the extra mile, I can say that has really helped me. I'll just give a little story. When I started working with the U.S. Department of Commerce, right out of college, I remember one of my first trade shows that I did was the automotive aftermarket industry show in Vegas. And they have these international pavilions, right? Where people from the different parts of the world will come in, they'll get their badge and you'll give them like one-on-one consultations. My first one, I went to every one of my clients, they were all from Baja, to all of their hotels, and they were like in the Excalibur here and there. I got blisters, but I left their badge in the lobby, and that won me so much. So I always like to tell that story to students because going the extra mile, even though you're going to be super tired at the end of the day, can win you so much. And I want to also ask this question to Freddie, and then I'll move on to Mary Rose. Freddie, you guys at WD-40 have, what's it called? You're part of a tribe, right?
Yeah, we have a tribal culture, yes.
Yeah, you have a culture in your company, and I'm assuming there are certain skills at the company, soft skills that you guys look for in order for everyone to be one big happy family, right? Do you mind sharing?
That's right. Yeah. There is a little bit of that. And that just kind of goes to how people fit or how we can train each other, right? That culture is about sort of the elders can teach younger ones and mentor them, and there's a lot of that going on. We believe in training constantly. So we have, call it faculty training. We have then just regular offers throughout the year. So if someone, trying to think of some examples that we've had. Well, here's one. We have Leadership Lab. And there's 1, 2, and 3 versions of that, and you progress. And it's just open to anyone in the company. So it has a lot to do with the learning, continue to learn. So some of the points that were made earlier, people that are willing to learn, that's huge. And then thinking also beyond that, just sort of aside from the things that you guys have already mentioned, Mark, I think it's funny, we had some of the same bullet points. So I'm like, I'm not gonna go over that, but I will say this part of it, maybe just reemphasize the whole soft skills part of these things for people to know and understand, at least in my thinking, is a lot of the jobs today with Google and with LinkedIn Learning and stuff like that, people can kind of figure out how to do a job. I can pretty much say, I'm sure there's people out there, I know there's people out there that can do my job better probably than I can. But the soft skills are kind of what's going to keep you there. That's what's going to sort of help you. And if you're still open and you're still learning and training, I think that goes a long way. So just want to put that little thought out there for you.
Thank you. That was great. Mary Rose, do you want to add anything to this question?
Yeah, I think Freddie actually was a good segue to really knowing your personal brand. I think one of the things that I didn't know back in the day of my career, having been fortunate to have a great relationship with all of my employers, I was always hired by referral. I had never had to seek a job. And so I always wanted to check, what was it? What were those skills? And part of it was, knowing my value set, right? Knowing what it was that carried me through. Integrity was one of the things that was repeatedly mentioned in my performance reviews. Left and right brain thinker, right? Was able to be creative as well as analytical. And so those soft skills, I think this ability now, especially we hear that buzzword, emotional intelligence. One of the things that I really found in terms of the soft skill that really benefited my career as an employee and even today is the ability to listen, like Mark had mentioned, but actively listening, and then kind of that compassionate listening, and then being able to hold myself accountable to following through. And follow through, I think, is a big skill set that most forget, but also knowing how to read other individuals. I had to work with so many personalities. I've worked in the military, I've worked with the government agencies, and just so many personalities, and being able to adapt and be agile and think outside the box, almost with that entrepreneurial spirit, definitely helps today. So not limiting yourself to only what you think you can do, but like they said, continuously learning and growing.
Thank you so much. And if you want to stay on for the next question, we'll start off with you. This is our last question because we do want to open it up to the attendees. Let's talk about passion. How important is it for you in the business sector that you're passionate about your work? And how do you find a business you're passionate about? How did you guys decide to end up in the job that you're in right now? What drove you there?
I guess I'll start I think I mentioned in my bio the whole, my whole journey from employee to employer or solopreneur. I called it a march forward. It really was just taking the time out and to really assess what my natural skills were, but also my nurtured skills. And then from there, finding something that I love to do that just came organically. So I've been fortunate. I realized at the end of the day, I'm passionate about helping others, and that carries through in any job, right? So when your passion is a little bit more intangible, I guess I'd say, the more easy it is to kind of get into any kind of job. But the fact that I can leverage my creative and my analytical side in something like branding and marketing, that definitely helps in that continuing that passion, right? The love for what I do and helping others is that passion. So I think spending the time to do that personal intensive work is critical today if you want to build, understand what really is that you should be doing and for who you should be serving. And I think that's key. And a lot of that requires kind of being honest with ourselves.
Thank you. Paul, do you mind going next?
Sure. All I can do is speak from my own personal situation. When I went to work for Bank of America, I went to work for them because I needed a job. I was out of college, had a degree. My degree was in industrial management. I got the job with Bank of America because it just happened to be available. I soon found that I really kind of liked what I was doing there. I was going through a training program, and I was meeting a lot of very interesting people. And I found out that banking was pretty involved and very, very interesting. After leaving Bank of America and going to work for Security Pacific, I really became quite passionate about what I was doing. I ran a large office up in Los Angeles, a large loan center. And I could hardly wait. I spent so much time at that job. Well, I'll tell you, I worked downtown Los Angeles and I lived in Thousand Oaks. It was 52 miles one way. So I spent a lot of time on the freeway, but I didn't mind it at all because I was really excited about my job. Consequently, when I came to San Diego, I was given a great promotion, but I was bored. I was in my late 30s. I was made senior vice president, but I was really bored with what I was doing. But I still liked the banking business, and I had an opportunity to open up a bank. And I had some people who were willing to back me financially. And so I said, why not? Talked with my wife about it. And she said, if it's what you want to do, then do it. And I can tell you, it was quite a shock. Going from a pretty cushy job, a real cushy job with Security Pacific, to going into my own business and running my own bank from a job where I probably put in maybe in working hours, maybe 4 or 5 hours, real hours, to working 7 days a week, 13, 14 hours a day. But I was passionate about it. I was growing the bank, and it was a fun thing to do. And that fed off into the people that I hired that worked for me. And we still get together. There's quite a few of still around, and we get together and we talk about the good old times, about how passionate we all were about that bank, or actually both banks.
Thank you for sharing. I'll go Freddie and then Mark, and then we'll open it up to a couple of questions from the audience.
Sure. Obviously, there's always the word of purpose, right? Do you feel like you're in a role that you're fulfilling a purpose? And sometimes it doesn't have to be the whole big life purpose question, but maybe just a purpose in that job place. Do you feel like you're contributing something, and then you go back home to your family kind of thing? They emphasize that for us at WD-40. That's what our CEO says. You come, you contribute, and then there's the sort of the environment. I think Paul's talking about that too, like who you work with, who your influences are. And with this, tribal culture that we mentioned earlier, there's that sense of, well, we help feed each other, we have each other's back, we can defend each other. So that contributes to quite a bit. And of course, you're going to be passionate about a place where you know that you can be vulnerable, people can share your successes and also be there to back you up and support you when you face challenges. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And the business side of things sometimes is not always an emphasis. So if it's like a high sales type of place, or all that will come later. But if you have these sort of values, business values, a lot of people are in alignment with those things. You're gonna find passion there, and you're gonna succeed, I believe.
Thank you, Mark.
I think the saying goes, find a job that you enjoy and you'll never work another day in your life. Couldn't be truer. So before you embark on something, there's a lot more to a job than just earning money. You need to spend some time being introspective and really asking yourself, what's going to motivate you, what's going to make you happy. Life truly is a journey and not a destination. There's no sense being miserable on the train ride.
Totally agree. Thank you so much for helping us answer these questions. And by the way, these questions came from educators and students, so Jen and I didn't make them up. Are there any questions from the audience? You can unmute yourself or put it in the chat.
I haven't seen anything in the chat.
Okay, so before I'm gonna put the survey or the evaluation on the chat for the attendees, and then I'll move the screen right now to the certificate. I like to do things a little bit outside the box, and because I like to create memories of the events, if you want to be in a screenshot, I'm gonna take a screenshot of this meeting. If you wanna be in the camera, in the picture, turn your camera on, and I'll take a few screenshots. Give me 1 second. We just really want memories, right? Because we can't see each other in person. Give me 1 second. Let me close this thing. Okay, so I'll take a couple of them. Smile, okay? 1, 2. 1, 2. Very good. Well, thank you so much to everyone. Let me just pull up the certificate. If you want to take a screenshot of that, just, I don't know how your districts are handling this, but this is kind of is evidence that you were part of this event. And then I'm gonna put in the chat, if you give me 1 second, I should have been more prepared, the evaluation for this particular.
Oh, and we do that. And I've got one question that did come through. How do you suggest teaching students active listening skills?
I know I did some training back in the day with some soft skills for prospecting and sales. I think part of it was I did role playing. I found that most effective. Maybe it's because back in my high school days, I had drama theater, but I found it a great way to create scenarios and then actively role play situations so that they can see the difference, and kind of in a group setting, teaching them that, you know, what's the difference and what worked best, what was, you know, making sure that they were actively listening by asking the questions, by mirroring the answers and things like that. So I found role play as always, one, a creative way and a great way for the group to get engaged together.
Great, thank you. And it looks like Monica put in the form in the chat. So Monica, this is the survey.
That's the evaluation that the organizers, yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you so much to everyone. Did we answer all the questions?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much to our panelists. We really appreciate you and your feedback and sharing the experience from all the years that you guys have.
I will offer this, Monica, if I can,
yeah.
Because, you know, we're mentors, counselors. If someone wanted to contact me directly and they wanted to find out a little bit more about SCORE and how we can help them in their business, they can email me at paul.score@scorevolunteer.org. So it's Paul, Paul, .sipe, SIPE, @scorevolunteer.org.
Thank you so much, Paul. And someone asked if I could put the certificate up again, and I just did. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
And I'll stop
Thank you as well.
Thank you, Mark, Freddie, Paul, and Mary Rose. Have a great
you.
day.
Bye.
We'll send you a
Take care.
follow-up email. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
The recording has stopped.